I wasn't sure I should make this video, but I decided to go ahead. I hope you don't hate me for making this video. I hope you learned something, like I did. I had so many questions. Maybe you have questions. Maybe we'll be able to answer some of these questions today. Questions like, can I tell the difference between a fake Fender Strat and a real Fender Strat? What is the difference between a Chinese Fender Stratocaster and, say, a Squire? Is a Chinese Fender Stratocaster any good? Would I be able to hear the difference between a Chinese Strat and other Strats? Was I somehow being duped by buying an American Fender Stratocaster? Was I paying way too much for my American Strats? If you haven't noticed, the new American Strats do not have the label on them that read Made in the USA any longer, even if they're called American Strats. And I believe this has to do with the components being manufactured outside of the USA. I didn't pay anything for this Fender Stratocaster, and I don't plan on ever selling it. I would probably destroy it before. So you may have noticed by now that this particular specimen has a beautiful, beautiful rosewood neck. Fingerboard, to be particular. The rosewood fingerboard has just gorgeous streaking in it, in my opinion. Now, obviously you're not going to be able to feel the guitar, so I'll try and fill you in on some of the details of how it feels. The rosewood fingerboard is very, very rough. I have other guitars with rosewood fingerboards and real Fender and others, and they don't feel anything like this. This one's very rough, like it needs to be sanded properly. The maple neck is obviously lacquered or finished in some way, and it isn't rough at all because of that. However, I don't like it because I don't like these necks. They're not smooth enough. So I have sanded it some since making this video. And overall, the feel of the neck is a little bulky. It's probably somewhere between 10 and a 12-inch radius. It's definitely not 7.5 or 9.5 radius. It's flatter and a little bit wider filling. However, I'll take some measurements later and you'll be able to see that for yourself. The back plate is like a dead giveaway. So if you ever find a guitar like this and it has a back plate on it that's rough, I mean, the back plate doesn't match what a real Fender would feel like, but obviously anyone trying to sell a fake as a real guitar would probably be smart enough to remove the back plate, so keep that in mind. But again, look at that neck, it's just gorgeous. So I'm taking the guitar apart to have a look inside. Get a closer look at the components. As you'll see, the components are really cheap, and so are the pickups. They don't sound too bad. I mean, obviously, you'll have your opinion. You can hear it. It's me playing the guitar throughout the entire video. I find they don't sound too bad at all, but, you know, they're bar magnet pickups, and in my personal opinion, they're just junk, really. However, they do get the job done. I suppose it depends what type of sound you're looking for. But yeah, all the electronics should probably be changed. But why? Why bother? So those measurements are in millimeters. In case you're using a phone and you're not able to tell. So for example, 51.7 millimeters. I mean, to look at it without having it close enough to pick it up, it looks like a real Fender Stratocaster. And to me it does. I don't see the difference at all. You notice this bump in the body. There's a bump in the back of the body, like an indent. If you look closely at the neck, you can see drips in the lacquer or the finishing. So they did a poor job finishing it. I imagine that could be sanded out. This guitar should probably be relicked if I wanted to make it look better. But you can really see the bubbling in the headstock. The tuners, I like vintage tuners. And this is meant to look like a 60s guitar. But you see how poorly they're aligned. They're not perfectly aligned. So that's a dead giveaway that this is a fake Fender Stratocaster. The tuners were really, especially the D, it was very rough. It wouldn't tune smoothly, but after changing strings, it's fine now, at least for the time being. You notice there's some nice dancing in the neck. The wood figuring dances a little bit. You've got that dark streak in there. I'm not sure if that's just a discoloration or what. But overall, it looks pretty good, admittedly. There's some bumps in the neck head, right there, the heel of the neck. You see some bumps in it. The switch is pretty cheap and clunky. It's too stiff, and I mean, yeah, the electronics are junk, really. However, they work. So maybe junk is too negative a word. They're just not high quality, is what I'm saying. The tremolo arm is wrong. It seems to be the wrong size. It's too big, the tremolo. The jack, quarter-inch jack, is really stiff. I mean, that's easy to fix. You just take it apart and bend it a little bit, but it was really stiff. And out of all the things you could upgrade, I'd say the nut would be one of the first things you should upgrade, because that nut is just absolutely horrible. So what's really missing from this guitar? This is the upgrade it needs. It needs to clearly be stamped, made in China. So I bought a sticker for it, just so this guitar does not cause any confusion. It was made in China.